In my previous life, the last time I saw my younger sister was at our father's funeral. My husband and I stepped out of the Land Rover, followed by 2 bodyguards making a grand entrance. The relatives greeted me warmly, invited us to take the main seats, and surrounded us with flattery, their faces filled with envy. Suddenly someone said, "Alas, if Wang Wan had taken the younger one back then, who knows whose fortune it would have been." When it came to my younger sister, everyone shook their heads and sighed, saying that she had a hard life. She married a hooligan and divorced in middle age. Her life was considered over. Subconsciously, I looked towards the kitchen. My younger sister, who was washing the dishes, was glaring at me with jealousy, gnashing her teeth, her eyes full of unwillingness. After the banquet, she came to me on her own initiative, saying that she had never ridden in such a nice car in her life, and asked me to give her a ride. Everyone laughed. Unable to bear seeing her being ridiculed, I took her for a drive alone. As a result, when we reached a slope, she suddenly grabbed the steering wheel from me, laughing maniacally. "Lin Chuyi, why do you get to live a better life than me? Just because mom took you to enjoy a good life back then? Anyway, I have nothing to lose now. Taking you down with me is worth it. Ha ha ha, let's die together in this car crash." After a sharp pain, I fell into darkness. When I opened my eyes again, I was following my mother with a suitcase in hand. My younger sister's shrill scream echoed in my ears. "No, Mom, take me with you." At this moment, her face was flushed, her chest heaving, as if she had experienced a transformation from extreme sorrow to extreme joy in an instant. I understood immediately. My younger sister had also been reborn with me. This time, she was going to seize my life. Nonsense. My father was the first to object, pulling my younger sister back. "I don't want Mom. Don't you like me the most? I don't want to live a hard life with Dad. Take me, take me." My younger sister kicked and beat my father resentfully, not hiding her disgust at all. My father looked at her in disbelief and froze on the spot. Taking the opportunity, my younger sister broke free and hugged my mother tightly. With tears and snot all over her face, she wailed, "Mom, I can't bear to be separated from you. Woo-woo." My mother was also moved to tears. My younger sister wiped her tears, her eyes full of admiration. I watched the scene coldly, sneering in my heart. Wasn't it she herself who chose to stay with Dad in the first place? My mother. I disliked my father's lack of money, and cheated on him with a small contractor, Chen Zhengwo. My father caught him in bed, and since then, his reputation has been ruined, and he's like a street rat. My mother, despising my father for his lack of money, had an affair with Chen Zhengwo, a small contractor. She was caught in bed by my father, and became a social outcast, like a rat crossing the street. My younger sister disliked the fact that after the divorce, my mother had no source of income, while my father had a small storefront, and could make a living without worry. Yeah, it's not that Mom doesn't want to take you. I don't even know what the future holds for me. My mother still rejected my younger sister heartlessly, because at this time, Chen Zhengwo hadn't promised to marry her yet. She was afraid that her younger daughter would suffer. "Your sister is older and more sensible. Don't be willful." She pushed my younger sister towards my father and said coldly, "Lin Huixing, we agreed. Whoever takes Yaya will not remarry easily. I don't want Yaya to be wronged." I lowered my head and gave a cold laugh. "So you're willing to let me stay here and be wronged? I don't want him. He can't make money and he's bad at talking. Mom, you look down on him too. Why do you want me to stay with him?" My younger sister finally couldn't hold back and started cursing. After her words, the room was so quiet that a pin drop could be heard. My father's face turned red with anger, and my mother looked embarrassed. But I was not at all surprised. In my previous life, after my mother established herself in the Chen family with my help, and lived a luxurious life, my younger sister began to look down on my father. Later, when my father was seriously ill in bed, she became even more unrestrained, scolding and beating my father every day, saying that my father had ruined her life. After 10 years of mutual resentment, my younger sister had long lost any father-daughter affection for him. My younger sister shook my mother's hand and said coquettishly, "Mom, I've said all this. He will definitely treat me badly in the future. Take me with you." My mother looked at her with a complex expression, sighed, and reluctantly agreed. "Get out. Both of you get out of my sight right now." My father was so angry that he overturned the table and turned to enter the room, slamming the door shut. My younger sister didn't care at all. She gave me a provocative look and smiled triumphantly. I followed my younger sister into the room. Watching her happily packing her clothes, I asked calmly, "Are you really going to the Chen family? Life as a dependent is not easy." Originally a well-intentioned remark, but she seemed to be stimulated. She suddenly picked up a suitcase and pushed me to the ground. She shouted venomously, "Lin Chuyi, don't even think about snatching Mom away. You've enjoyed a good life for a lifetime. It's my turn this time. If you dare to ruin my chance, I'll kill you. I smiled faintly and stopped trying to persuade her. If she wants my life, fine. I'll give it to her. I just hope she won't regret it later. She suddenly kicked the suitcase aside and said disdainfully, "Ah, I must be crazy. Why am I still taking these old things? They have plenty of money. I'll buy all new ones." Before leaving, she looked at me triumphantly. "Lin Chuyi, Dad will achieve nothing until the day he dies. He only knows how to drink and smash things. You're on your own." After seeing them off and closing the door, a smile crept up on my lips. For a divorced mother with a daughter to remarry a man with a son, it's extremely difficult for them to get ahead in such a recombined family. Was the Chen family father and son good people? Just like in the previous life, before long, Chen Zhengwo held a grand banquet to marry my mother. The relatives on my grandmother's side attended, and showed off photos in the group, praising my mother for her ability to remarry so splendidly. Chen Siyue sent me a WeChat message. "Sister, no matter how poor I was in the previous life, I never came to look for you all. Don't disturb my good life either." I replied with a simple okay. Why on earth would I go to look for them? My good life was just about to begin. I dedicated myself wholeheartedly to my studies. 2 years later, it was the turning point in my previous life. At that time, I was in the 11th grade, and had just turned 18. Chen Zhangwo said, "What's the point of a girl studying so much? Come with me to run the project." Without hesitation, my mother withdrew me from school, and made me follow him to work hard. Now, I was still sitting in the bright classroom, enjoying my new life. "Chuani, have you heard? It seems that there will be a transfer student coming to our class today, and he's coming back from abroad." I let out an "oh" and shrugged non-committally. When the head teacher led in a tall boy with dyed yellow hair, I frowned. It was him, Chen Dongsheng, my brother in my previous life and later my husband. While Chen Dongsheng was making an eloquent self-introduction on the stage, a shout came from the corridor outside the door. "Chen Siyue, what are you doing? You're assigned to another class." Only then did I see that Chen Siyue, whom I hadn't seen for a long time, had also transferred here. At the moment her eyes were blood red, looking at me like an enemy. She pointed at Chen Dongsheng, her mouth opening and closing, silently warning something. I silently withdrew my gaze and lowered my head, slowly smiling. Chen Dongsheng was back, and Chen Siyue's good days were over. During the break, Chen Siyue rushed to my class. Seeing that Chen Dongsheng was my desk mate, she immediately went crazy. "Lin Chuani, have you no shame? Why are you pestering my Shengji?" She looked as righteous, as if she were catching someone in the act of adultery. Chen Dongsheng, on the other hand, was twirling a pen carelessly, sitting with his legs crossed watching the show. This attitude made Chen Siyue even more arrogant. She swept my books off the desk in one go and stomped on them with her feet. "Are you that cheap? Thinking about boys even while still studying? What does he have to do with you? Huh, why are you trying to get close to him?" I frowned, looking at the books on the ground. Xiao Manqing, who sat in front of me, couldn't stand it anymore. "Chen Siyue, don't go too far. It's because your sister studies well, that the teacher arranged for the new classmate to be her deskmate. She lives in the same community as me, so she knows our situation very well." "Who asked you to meddle? Remember to call me Chen Siyue. I changed my surname long ago." Chen Siyue snorted, walked to Chen Dongsheng's side, and took his arm. "See, this is my brother. Lin Chuani, does she deserve it?" She held her head high, claiming her sovereignty, and then coquettishly said to Chen Dongsheng, "Brother, Lin Chuani is so bad. I have nothing to do with her now. You don't have to be nice to her." Chen Dongsheng only lifted his eyelids and lazily glanced at me. Seeing that he wasn't interested in me, Chen Siyue triumphantly pulled him out. Xiao Manqing helped me pick up the books and indignantly scolded. "How could she become like this? A snob. How can you tolerate her?" "It's okay." I smiled faintly and patted the dust off the books. Xiao Manqing called me a pushover. I was never a pushover. The teacher arranged for Chen Dongsheng to be my deskmate, and I didn't object. I endured Chen Siyue's provocation in silence. All of this was to avoid attracting Chen Dongsheng's attention and interest. In the previous life, he had a bad habit. The more a woman resisted, the more stubborn and full of character she was, the more he liked her. Chen Siyue was willing to help divert Chen Dongsheng's attention from me. I couldn't have asked for more. My battlefield was no longer in the Chen family. In the 11th grade, I had to fully focus on the college entrance examination. It was not until class started that Chen Siyue sent Chen Dongsheng back to the classroom, like a mother hen protecting her eggs. In the previous life, she was unwilling to accept that I could marry Chen Dongsheng, just because I was close to him. So in this life, she regarded Chen Dongsheng as her own possession long ago. But she didn't know that the more she did this, the more dangerous her situation in the Chen family would be. Soon on the day of the PE class, Chen Siyue blocked me in the toilet. She fiercely grabbed my neck with both hands and asked me without rhyme or reason, "Lin Chuani, you knew it all along, didn't you? Why didn't you remind me?" My eyes swept over her. Her mouth was bruised, there was a faint red mark on her neck, and there were obvious 5-finger da hun on her wrist. She was unusually well dressed on a hot day. Calculating the time, the things in the previous life had happened earlier. "You two didn't." She quickly denied it. "He was just being a rascal." I actually believed this. There were still 6 months until Chen Siyue turned 18. Although Chen Dongsheng liked to play around, he still had some sense of propriety. Chen Siyue was furious. "Lin Chuani, you deliberately didn't tell me. Do you want to laugh at me?" I looked at her coldly. Chun Siyue, you were married in the previous life. You're not a naive child. Do I need to remind you? Young boys and girls, full of youthful feelings, living under the same roof, and you're still foolishly pestering Chen Dongsheng. It's no wonder he's tempted. Chun Siyue stared blankly at me, then suddenly grabbed her hair vigorously, collapsed and squatted on the ground, murmuring, "No, he wouldn't be like this." Clearly. I also squatted down. Clearly in the previous life, when you tried to seduce him on purpose, he showed no interest and behaved like a gentleman, right? She suddenly looked up and shouted, "You!" He came back and vividly told me about it. He even took a video of you naked trying to seduce him. Chun Siyue screamed and yelled at me to stop talking. "Tell me what you did back then. Tell me, or I'll kill you." Suddenly, she took out a fruit knife from her pocket and pressed it against my neck, looking fierce and crazy, her eyes blood red, as if she would stab me if I didn't agree. "As long as you dare to kill him, he won't dare anymore," I said, not joking. Her eyes shrank. "Lin Chuani, you're crazy. So you only dare to die with me, only dare to threaten me. In the previous life, you dared to grab my steering wheel. In this life, you're pointing a knife at me. You're only brave at home, but because you're greedy for the Chen family's wealth, you don't dare to say a word about Chen Dongxing's beastly behavior. How can your worthless life compare to Sheng Jiyi's? I won't admit defeat. What you can do, I can do too. Chuani, you wait. I'll return all the humiliation you gave me in the previous life. Ha ha ha. Who asked you not to have the Chen family to protect you now?" My eyes darkened. Now Chun Siyue was crazy and stubborn. She would definitely use everything she had to retaliate against me at all costs. Of course, I wouldn't sit and wait for disaster. Hehe, since that's the case, Chun Siyue, don't blame me for cutting off your retreat. It was time for the monthly break to go home again. I stepped on the moonlight and returned to the community. The tree shadows were vague, the wind was gentle, and the unknown grass rustled. Looking up, I saw my father's figure drying clothes on the balcony. In the previous life, at this same time, I was dragged into Chen Dongxing's room by him. The young man forcefully pressed me under him and roughly pulled at my clothes. I cried and screamed desperately, and once broke free to pound on my mother's door hard. "Mom, open the door. Help me. Chen Dongxing is forcing me." After a long time, I heard my mother's footsteps approaching, but she just persuaded me through the door. "Chuani, Dongxing is just playing around with you. Why are you so ignorant?" At this time, Chen Dongxing came over with an evil smile to grab me. He hugged me and left while chatting and laughing with my mother. "Auntie is so reasonable. Chuani, be good and play with your brother." I shouted in horror. "Mom, come out and take a look." But until I was dragged into the room by Chen Dongxing again, my mother's door didn't move at all. Except for my screams, the house was as quiet as a tomb. At that moment, my heart was extremely cold. Later, I refused to submit and bit Chen Dongxing hard, then escaped. I ran wildly in the rain and vowed never to look back. I cried all the way back to my father's house. Standing downstairs, I shouted loudly for him. After my father came down, he didn't care about me at all. Instead, he scolded me with a stern face. "Didn't you go to the Chen family to enjoy a good life with your mother? What are you doing back here?" I hugged myself, shivering in the rain. He kept scolding me. "You're as cheap as your mother, an ungrateful wretch. Don't come to me again. Get lost." My father vented his depression and frustration on me without restraint, expressing his resentment towards my mother for remarrying a rich man. Until my sister's shout came from upstairs, he stopped scolding and waved me away. "Hurry up and go. Don't let your sister see you. Otherwise, she'll throw a tantrum. And don't come back to affect her, Dad." The rain made me shiver. I let out a sigh, but didn't get the slightest bit of pity. My mother's home was not my home. It was hell. The once familiar home could no longer accommodate me. The moment my mother took me away from home, the once united family fell apart, separated by an unbridgeable chasm. That night, I stood downstairs for a long time until the familiar light on the balcony went out. The last bit of weakness in my heart completely disappeared. Finally, I wiped away my tears and walked back with firm steps. I knew that from then on, I had to fight my own way out. In the early hours of the morning, I took the initiative to enter Chen Dongxing's room. When he woke up groggily, I stabbed the sharp knife in my hand straight into his pillow. "Ah!" He let out a blood-curdling scream. My stepfather and my mother knocked on the door within 3 seconds. I pressed the tip of the knife against Chen Dongxing's neck and slowly showed a strange smile, saying softly, "Mom, Uncle Chen, Shengji and I are just playing around. You don't understand the things between us young people. If you interrupt us, you'll be very ignorant." My stepfather kicked the door desperately. I remained silent and the knife cut Chen Dongxing's skin, and thick blood flowed out. Then I motioned for him to send the people outside the door away. My cold eyes were like looking at a dead person without a ripple. "Dad, I'm okay. Listen to Chuani. Go away." Chen Dongxing shouted in horror. Until many years later, when he talked to me about this matter, he said that I was really scary at that time, and he was really frightened by me. But he would never know that if he had dared to resist even a little bit that night, I would definitely have died with him. When Chun Siyue was humiliated for the first time, she chose to swallow her anger. This meant that she would never have the chance to resist again. When I got home, my father asked me about my studies, and happily went to the kitchen to make me a midnight snack. "Dad, make more." I invited Manqing to review with me. "Sure thing." He smiled cheerfully without the slightest bit of reluctance. Since being stabbed by Chun Siyue, he had put all his love into me. One day when he was drunk, he hugged me and said, "Don't envy your sister. Although Dad has no money, I will definitely give you the best. Dad will definitely cultivate you well, and make those two regret it. Thank you, Dad. I thanked him sincerely, but my emotions were calm. Chen Siyue and I were just pawns in our parents' game. The midnight snack was ready. I called Xiao Manqing. Call Auntie over too. My dad's cooking is really good. Xiao Manqing hesitated for a while. Is this too much trouble? I turned on the speakerphone. What's the trouble? If Auntie feels embarrassed, she can wash the dishes after eating. Right, Dad? My father rubbed his hands and had to say, come on, big sister. Don't be polite. We're neighbors. After the midnight snack, Xiao Manqing and I went to the room to do our homework. Aunt Jiang will just review for an hour, watch some TV, and then go back with Manqing later. Without waiting for a response, I pulled Xiao Manqing into the room. After coming out of Teacher He's office, Chen Siyue blocked me with a group of people. Since getting money, she had bribed a bunch of followers and was quite popular at school. A group of them surrounded me and led me to the back gate of the school. I frowned. Chen Siyue, what do you want? She sneered, had someone hold my limbs, and slowly took out a pair of scissors from her pocket, gesturing in front of my face, with a malicious smile on her lips. Lin Chuani, although Sheng Ji isn't interested in you, you're always lingering around him. It makes me uncomfortable. You like studying so much. Who are you trying to seduce with your long hair? Let me help you trim it. As she finished speaking, the scissors rushed towards my face, only a few centimeters away from my eyes. Seeing me flinch back, she laughed triumphantly, and suddenly grabbed my hair, cutting it randomly with a series of click-click sounds. I didn't struggle, just watched quietly as the black strands fell in front of my eyes. Okay. Chen Siyue took a breath, admiring her masterpiece. There were bursts of snickering sounds from the side, saying that I now looked like a bald-headed frog. Teacher, he ran over and shouted, what are you doing? The followers scattered at the sound. Chen Siyue, however, put away the scissors without a care, glanced at Teacher He disdainfully and said, we were just playing around. Teacher, you're so loud. You scared us to death. Teacher, he pointed at my head and roared, this is playing around? Go and call your parents. Parents? Chen Siyue pointed at me, laughing so hard that she was doubled over and coughing continuously. Teacher, he, don't you want to ask Lin Chuani if he dares to call his parents? She turned around contemptuously and left, leaving behind a sentence. If they really come, who knows who they'll side with? I gently tugged at Teacher He's sleeve and shook my head, indicating to let it go. Facing Teacher He's pitying gaze, I smiled and said, today you brought me good news. This little thing is nothing. This is just the starting point of my life. The same goes for some people. I touched the wound on my head. It hurt, but at the same time, I felt a sense of relief. Watching someone else go crazy in the mire and unable to break free. What was this bit of pain? In the last year of high school, every minute and every second was precious. Chen Siyue wasn't worthy of my time and energy. Hair could grow back, but Chen Siyue's days of being in the limelight were coming to an end soon. Chuani, hardships will always pass. Hold on a little longer and you'll be free. Teacher, he stroked my head. I clenched the broken hair in my hand and suddenly said, Teacher, can you keep the matter of the recommendation to college a secret for me? After what Chen Siyue had done to trouble me just now, he patted his chest and promised to discuss it with the school leaders for me. I walked around the school like an oddity with a bald-like head for a few days. The school leaders agreed to my request and made a special approval for me. In the end, my name, Lin Chuani, wasn't on the publicly announced list of recommended students. In the crowd, Chen Siyue heaved a sigh of relief, and a calculating look flashed in her eyes. Zhang Manqing pulled me out disappointedly. She suddenly asked, Chuani, that day when Chen Siyue bullied you, I wanted to call for help. Why did you stop me? I smiled faintly and said, she's just being childish. It'll pass after a fuss. She won't really hurt me. You still consider her your sister. I put my arm around her shoulder. Let's not talk about her. Recently, I feel like Aunt Jiang has become much more beautiful. Xiao Manqing suddenly became a bit hesitant, scratched her head and said, no, not really. I didn't ask further. The two of us frolicked and walked towards the classroom. In the corridor, Chen Siyue was holding Chen Dongxing's arm, and the two were talking intimately. Chen Dongxing's hand would occasionally caress her waist. Their words and actions were extremely ambiguous. Xiao Manqing let out a yo and whispered, many people in the school say they're dating, but Chen Dongxing is also chasing the class beauty in the next class. Anyway, I don't think they look like siblings. Seeing how harmonious they were getting along, it must be that Chen Siyue had lowered her pride and reached some unequal agreement. She thought that just letting Chen Dongxing enjoy some of the rights of a husband in advance would be enough, but to be the daughter-in-law of the Chen family, good looks and being obedient were far from enough. Once Chen Dongxing really got what he wanted, Chen Siyue's value would be exhausted. The next challenge wouldn't be something that could be resolved by just letting someone take advantage. In the second semester of senior high school, when everyone was in intense preparation for the college entrance examination, Chen Siyue from the 11th grade suddenly wanted to drop out of school. My mother came to handle it in person. Her sharp index finger unceremoniously pointed at Chen Siyue's forehead. What are you crying for? Your academic performance is so poor. Studying is just a waste of time. Seeing the teacher's disapproving looks and the classmates' whispers, she held her head up haughtily. What are you looking at? My Siyue is different from you all. Our family has a company. After you go to college, won't you still have to work in a company? I smiled. My mother still hadn't changed. She liked Chen Siyue, but she loved herself more. In the previous life, When I could help her, she consciously kept a distance from Chen Siyue, afraid of making me angry. The so-called deep mother-daughter bond had long become a joke. Dropping out of school was ultimately a shameful thing. Chen Siyue unwillingly looked at Chen Dongxing with teary eyes. Chen Dongxing turned his face away and said lazily, "Why are you looking at me? Talk to my dad about it." At this time, there were big problems in the Chen family's company. Chen Zhengwo was bowing and scraping outside every day, begging people for help and socializing, hoping to get some capital back and switch to a new business. Seeing that there was no room for negotiation regarding dropping out of school, Chen Siyue suddenly rushed towards me in the crowd and pushed me hard. "Lin Chuani, if I can't go to college, neither can you." Teacher, he quickly helped me up and scolded, "No manners." My mother, feeling ashamed, quickly pulled the sobbing Chen Siyue away. Looking at their backs, I couldn't help but sigh. In the previous life, with my father's accompaniment, Chen Siyue was admitted to a second-tier university. My father was overjoyed and held a grand banquet, publicizing it widely in the relative circle. He even brought up the matter of my dropping out of school in the 11th grade to belittle me, secretly and openly mocking my mother, saying that both of us, mother and daughter, were uneducated, and that my mother had ruined my life. The family group kept popping up with videos, filled with flowers, firecrackers, and respectful voices. Everyone was praising Chen Siyue for her achievements. The relatives even blatantly belittled me, saying that in this era, I didn't even have a college diploma, and was a disgrace. That was the darkest moment of my life. No one knew that on that day, I drank until I vomited blood. Just after the surgery, lying in the hospital ward, when the anesthesia wore off and I was twitching all over in pain, I received the news of Chen Siyue's admission to a second-tier university. It was already hard enough for me, and Chen Dongxing was still sitting next to me taunting me. "Lin Chuani, I made you stab me with a knife. I can't deal with you, but my dad and your aunt can't they? I won't let you go to college and leave me. You saw me in such an embarrassing state. Just be my woman obediently. Hee. My dad said you have guts, and are a good material for doing business. The company can't do without you now. Well, those rough necks in the construction industry, I don't like dealing with them. It's just right to leave it to you. Get out." I glared at him resentfully. He jumped aside and quickly pressed me back onto the bed. "You drank until your stomach bled. Do you know that? Stop making trouble. If I hadn't gone to save you last night, you would have died." I stared at him numbly. After a moment of confrontation, he spread his hands helplessly. Okay, it's my fault. I shouldn't have provoked you. You're just too stubborn. I always want to teach you a lesson." His peach blossom eyes narrowed, and he leaned closer. "Lin Chuani, if this business deal is successful, marry me. I really like you. The two of us are like the east wind and the west wind. One of us has to give in. I admit defeat, okay?" I closed my eyes and let him chatter. With a mother who held me back, if I wanted to avoid being controlled by the Chun family father and son, I could only make achievements in the company and gain the right to speak. Otherwise, it would be like in the 11th grade, watching helplessly as they made me drop out of school and played with my life. Chen Siyue didn't understand. When she envied me for living a good life in the Chen family, how much I envied my father for never remarrying for her sake, for being afraid that she would be wronged, and for carefully nurturing her and fulfilling her dreams. While I was in one socializing event after another, drinking glass after glass of strong liquor, and hearing one flattering word after another, mourning my regretful and lonely life. Now, Chen Siyue, as you wish, you can enjoy this great wealth. But can you really hold on to it? On the eve of the college entrance examination, I saw Chen Siyue again at my home. My father was standing with his neck stiff and his face red, telling her to get out. Aunt Jiang was trying to persuade him beside him. "Look at how you're dressed. How does your mother manage you?" Chen Siyue was sitting with her legs crossed, smoking and puffing, looking extremely impatient. "Mind your own business. I'm not with you. Then what are you doing back here? Get out." "Dad, I just came back to stay for a few days because I missed you. If you really want me to go, then I'll really go." Chen Siyue was shaking her legs without fear. My father cursed a few words and went back to his room alone to sulk. I took off my shoes, entered the house, and put down my school bag. Remembering that rainy night, my heart was filled with silence. Although he had a loud voice and a sharp tongue just now, he was still worried that Chen Siyue would go astray. Even though Chen Siyue looked down on him so much, he still couldn't bear to let his little daughter really leave. If he really didn't welcome her or want to see her, he should have been like in the previous life, when he didn't even give me a chance to enter the house. Was I angry? Not really. There was only a faint, "Oh, just like that." "Hey, Lin Chuani, Dad said you haven't been home for a month. Where did you go?" Chen Siyue stared at me warily. I replied faintly, "Didn't Dad tell you? I went to a summer camp to relax." My father opened the door and came out at this time shouting, "Your sister has good grades and doesn't need to cram like others at the last minute. You at such a young age, don't study but go to accompany people drinking. Aren't you ashamed?" The father-daughter pair started arguing again. I stuffed cotton in my ears and lay down on the bed. There was only a week left until the college entrance examination. Chen Siyue worked in the Chen family's company during the day and came back to sleep at night without fail, often arriving home in the middle of the night, vomiting violently. My father grumbled as he cooked her a hangover soup. Aunt Jiang reminded him to ask Chen Siyue to be careful not to affect my review. At night, the house became even more lively. Besides the noise of Chen Siyue's late return, there was also the sound of my father arguing with my mother on the phone. Xiao Manqing secretly told me that Chen Siyue was using the pretext of visiting my father to interfere with my studies. I shook my head and said, no way. After all, they haven't seen each other for several years. It's normal for them to have a little get-together. Xiao Manqing had no choice but to ask me to go to her house to review. From beginning to end, I didn't complain at all. On the night before the college entrance examination, Chen Siyue slipped into my room and said she wanted to talk to me. Lin Chuani, why did you never come home in the previous life? Did Dad not let you come back? I never thought that after several years, Dad still kept my room. He patted my bed and laughed triumphantly. But after you left, this room was turned into my study. Lin Chuani, how did you manage to get along so well with Dad this life? Don't you hate him? She stretched out her finger to touch the ring on her middle finger, her eyes full of longing. You know, my stepfather said that if I can close a few more business deals, he'll let me marry Sheng Ji. Oh, Sheng Ji is after all my brother-in-law from the previous life, your husband. It's kind of embarrassing. I sneered in my heart. Close a few business deals? With her slutty appearance? With a few seductive tricks? Just because the father-son pair flattered her a few times, she took it seriously. There's really no need to be embarrassed. I wish you two a long and happy life. Chen Siyue patted her chest and laughed heartily, saying with great satisfaction, Lin Chuani, it turns out that your previous life was all a pretense. I thought you and Sheng Ji had such a deep relationship, but it seems it's nothing special. Otherwise, how could you be willing to let him go to me? She smiled triumphantly, then lowered her head and touched her abdomen. I'll tell you some good news. I'm pregnant with Sheng Ji's child. Sister, you didn't seem to have a child in the previous life, right? She said with full confidence. You'll never be able to marry into the Qin family's company this life. The money and the man are all mine. I've taken back everything you had in the previous life. Then I really have to congratulate you, I said. Chen Siyue's attacks were like hitting cotton. She talked until her mouth was dry, but ultimately returned in vain. And I was thinking, without me leading the Qin family's business to transform this life, how would the Qin family father and son, who were at their wits' end up? Early the next morning, Xiao Manqing came to call me to go to the exam together. My father was helping me pack my ID card, exam admission ticket and stationery. While waiting to enter the examination hall, Aunt Jiang urged Xiao Manqing to check the exam certificates and stationery again. At this moment, my father let out a Jingjiao. We all looked at him. He was desperately shaking my document bag and murmuring, it's gone. Where are the things inside? Aunt Jiang shouted, this isn't a joke. The bell is about to ring. Didn't you insist on carrying it yourself, because you were afraid the child couldn't hold it properly? My father's face turned pale, and his lips were trembling. He kept saying, yes. I've been carrying it all the time. I held it tightly all the way. I even checked it before going out. Xiao Manqing became anxious. Uncle Lin, think about who else touched the document bag. My father thought for a while, then suddenly slapped his forehead, looking extremely shocked. Yeah? But it can't be. Aunt Jiang stamped her foot in anger. Oh, Lao Lin, this concerns the child's whole life. How could you be so careless? Everyone was in a panic. My father was at a loss and kept muttering. I just let Yaya touch it before going out. I checked the bag. It was the same. At this time the bell rang. Aunt Jiang couldn't care less, and quickly took Xiao Manqing into the examination hall. My father could only take me to find the teacher quickly, but all the certificates were lost. The teacher had to go and negotiate and explain, and there simply wasn't enough time. By the time I entered the examination hall, it was already half an hour later. This subject was basically ruined. My father desperately called Chen Siyue, shouting that he wanted to beat her to death. Chen Siyue's arrogant laughter came from the phone. Lin Chuani, are you surprised? Are you shocked? You thought I only had those tricks from last night? Haha, that was just to deceive you. I hate you the most for pretending to be noble in front of me. Secretly, you've been waiting to see me make a fool of myself, looking down on me and despising me. You pretended to swallow your anger, no doubt because you thought that after you got into college, you'd be something great and start a new life. Let me tell you, you don't have the fate to go to college. Did I allow you to live my life? You'll never be better than me in this life. Perhaps because her goal was achieved, she no longer had any scruples. My father trembled and asked Chen Siyue, I'm asking you, did you come back this time just to make sure your sister can't take the college entrance examination? That's right, old thing. Did you really think I came back to catch up with you? You two rats in the gutter struggle well. You damn thing, you're not human. How could you harm your sister like this? Come back here. Ha, I'll tell you some good news. Our whole family is in Shanghai. Tomorrow, we're going to move abroad and settle down. You all fend for yourselves. Bye-bye. The phone hung up. No matter how many times my father dialed, there was no answer. Even my mother's phone was turned off. All the relatives couldn't get in touch with them. My father seemed to have aged dozens of years in an instant and staggered and fell to the ground. I silently helped him up. He was in tears, looking at me and slapping himself in the face non-stop. Daughter, it's Dad who's sorry for you. I'm so sorry. Dad deserves to die. Dad has ruined your life. He beat his chest and stamped his feet. I saw teacher he walking towards us from afar, and quickly helped my father away. Regret? Ashamed? Weren't these what he deserved? Dad fell ill as soon as he got home, and couldn't get out of bed. One reason was that he had caused me to miss the exam. And the bigger blow was probably from Chen Siyue's exploitation and betrayal. As soon as he woke up in a daze he kept muttering, Chuani, I'm sorry Dad. Dad was wrong. Dad will definitely treat you well in the future. Aunt Jiang called me out of the room. looking extremely distressed. Chwani, it's been 3 days. Tell him the truth. Otherwise, I'm afraid he won't make it through. I lowered my head and didn't say a word. Aunt Jiang assured me again. This time I dare to guarantee for Lao Lin. He definitely won't be soft-hearted towards Chen Siyue anymore. I smiled at her. Guaranteeing won't work. If Aunt Jiang marries my dad and has a little brother, then I'll believe it. Aunt Jiang immediately blushed with shame and hit me. Oh, you child. Auntie is talking to you about serious matters. Isn't this a serious matter? I tilted my head and asked. Xiao Manqing walked over speechlessly. I said, Chwani, stop teasing my mom. We haven't settled the score with you yet. She grabbed my ear and snorted. Secretly getting recommended to college without telling us. You're so bold. You made me not perform well in the exam. I shouted in pain. Aunt Jiang and her daughter burst out laughing. After my father woke up, he didn't blame me for lying to him. First, he announced in all the family groups that he was officially cutting off relations with Chen Siyue. From then on, all her matters had nothing to do with him. He only had one daughter, Lin Chwani. The relatives on my grandmother's side jealously scolded Lin Huixing. What are you announcing? If you want to cut off relations, it should be Siyue who says it. They mother and daughter have gone abroad to live a happy life. You can only shout in the group. An incompetent man can't keep his wife and children. You deserve it. In a fit of anger, my father directly quit the group chat. Chwani, dad is useless. You've suffered so much, Weicha, and I can't even get justice for you. I said faintly, forget it. I didn't lose anything either. She has a heart of darkness. If it weren't for your cleverness in applying for the recommendation first, dad would really die with regret. That child has a bad heart, and is beyond redemption. She even schemes against her own sister. He was still indignant about being betrayed by his little daughter, and pulled me to complain and curse for dozens of minutes. Seeing that I was always indifferent, he seemed to understand something and stopped talking. Child, I just looked at him quietly. His lips moved a few times, he sighed, and turned to enter the room. I walked to the balcony, and looked at the pitch blackness downstairs. I couldn't see anything clearly. I could feel my father's recent attempts to make up for things and his guilt. But what was the use? A winter fan and a summer fur coat, after all, come at the wrong time, and only make people tired. Xiao Manqing once privately asked me why I wanted to make her mother and my father. Who would want an extra stepmother? In fact, I don't like having a stepfather either. I smiled and replied, we're going to college in another city. Isn't it good to let the two elders take care of each other? She rolled her eyes and accepted this explanation. In fact, I always knew that my father wasn't Chen Siyue's father, and wouldn't remain unmarried for me for a lifetime. Since that's the case, why not find a partner for him to save trouble? In the future, if they don't get along and lose face, it won't be good. Of course, there was another reason. I wanted to cut off Chen Siyue's retreat. People can't always have their cake and eat it too. On the day we received the admission notice, we finally got news of the Chen family. It turned out that Chen Jiangwo and his son embezzled all the company's funds and absconded abroad, leaving the debts and a pile of mess to my mother and Chen Siyue. Until the creditors came to the door, the mother and daughter were still dreaming of going abroad to enjoy a good life and live in luxury. My mother is now under surveillance in the Chen family's villa and has no freedom at all. When the court's judgment comes down, she won't even have a place to live and will have to live on the streets. Chen Siyue had a miscarriage during the escape and is currently receiving treatment in the hospital due to massive bleeding. I was still in the family group of my grandmother's side. My mother frantically sent messages, hoping that someone could take her in after the house was seized. But all the relatives avoided her like the plague. It was said that the debt left by Chen Jiangwo was over 60 million. The Chen family's villa was far from enough to pay it off. Those creditors, unable to find Chen Jiangwo and his son, would only keep harassing my mother. I really regret it. I should have taken Chwani and Siyuan with me back then. The child was spoiled by me. I let her go to help Jiangwo, and she ruined the good company. My mother still didn't recognize the reality, and tried to whitewash the situation. Auntie-in-law, who was straightforward, directly retorted, have some conscience. You even let your own daughter prostitute herself. You're still protecting that scumbag. Second auntie-in-law also said, if it weren't for Siyue, that Chen guy couldn't have recovered so much money. They saw that the company was going under, and used you two to run away. My mother was so angry that she sent voice messages to scold them. Watch your mouths. Siyue is carrying my stepson's child. The two of them are going to get married. You don't understand anything. Auntie-in-law, who wasn't easy to bully, sent voice messages to scold back. Wang Wan, are you blind? Siyue's appearance and speech style in that half-year were like a prostitute. God knows how many men she slept with. You slut, you couldn't recognize people clearly and ruin Siyue's life. If I were you, I'd jump into the river and drown myself. Second auntie-in-law sent a bunch of exclamation marks and announced, I'm putting it here. Wang Wan, if you dare to step into my house, I'll break your legs. Second uncle, stop pretending to be dead. Come out and talk. The group was in chaos. I silently withdrew. After booking the flight tickets to Beijing, Chen Siyue asked to meet me. She was still recuperating in the hospital, looking sickly, as if she had lost half her life. I originally thought she should have woken up, but as soon as we met, she frantically questioned me. Lin Chwani, tell me clearly, why is the Chen family different from the previous life? Weren't they very rich later? Tell me. I stood by the hospital bed, looking down on her haughtily. Because they had me. She didn't believe it and shook her head desperately. Impossible. I also worked hard. I can drink a lot. Those partier bosses all like me. I recovered a lot of money. I looked at her compassionately. With your body. Sheng Ji said he doesn't care. He's been abroad. As long as there's money, he'll take me to live a good life. We'll go abroad where no one knows us. Chen Siyue suddenly laughed loudly and pointed at me. It was the same for you in the previous life, right? No wonder you couldn't have a child. You were also played around with, right? I sat leisurely by the bed and told her a truth. Do you know why I married Chen Dongxing? Chen Siyue looked at me intently. I was molested at the dinner table, and he fought for me. Impossible, she shouted. Later, he injured his genitals and ordered Chen Zhengwo to hand over the company to me. And then he was going to commit suicide by jumping off a building. Lin Chuani, you're lying. Sheng Ji doesn't take anyone seriously. He's not that kind of person. My eyes darkened. I know he was just acting, but he dared. That day, with his feet hanging in the air on the tall building, facing the wind, he said leisurely, Chuani, I can probably understand the feeling you had when you stabbed the knife into my pillow that night. I'm asking you, were you scaring me or really daring to kill me? I replied, if you dare to resist, I will. He turned back and smiled at me. If you leave me, I really will jump. We were both gambling on our future fates. That night, I won the bet. This time he won the bet. The beginning of me and Chen Dongxing was ding to be a struggle for power, evenly matched. But Chen Siyue, from the beginning, positioned herself in a position to be played with. Chen Siyue, do you still think I relied on mom and Chen Dongxing now? My life didn't rely on choices. I never had the right to choose at all. No matter what path was given to me, all I could rely on was the courage and effort to break through the darkness. Chen Siyue didn't understand. It's never life that fails but people. I don't know if Chen Siyue let go of the obsession from the previous life. That's no longer my concern. Before Xiao Manqing and I set off, we witnessed my father and Aunt Zhang's wedding together. This new couple will start a new life, under the blessings of their respective daughters. At the banquet, Aunt Zhang actually felt nauseous. An old Chinese doctor among the relatives took her pulse, and found that she was pregnant. My father was overjoyed and danced with delight. When the family happily returned home, they saw Chen Siyue squatting in front of the door with a suitcase. Seeing my father carefully helping Aunt Zhang out of the elevator, constantly saying, be careful, Chen Siyue was stunned for a moment and then immediately screamed, Dad, who allowed you to get married? My father didn't even look at her. His tone was so cold that it could freeze. Get lost. He didn't deign to give her an extra word or a glance. Chen Siyue's face turned deathly pale, filled with disbelief. She spread her arms and blocked my father's way, speaking anxiously. Dad, look clearly. I'm Yaya, your Yaya. Are you crazy? At your age, why are you getting married? Didn't you say that whoever took me couldn't get married? My father frowned. Everyone looked at Chen Siyue in confusion. Aunt Zhang asked in a hoarse voice, is this child mentally ill? Perhaps due to successive blows and setbacks. Chen Siyue might indeed be unable to distinguish between the previous life and this life. Now that she had nothing, the only thing she could rely on was the paternal love that she had despised in the previous life. Always being strong-willed, she couldn't accept that her father, who had remained unmarried for her all his life, now had a new wife and a beloved son. I dissolved the relationship with you long ago. If you have something, go to your mother. My father gave her a cold glance, helped Aunt Zhang and walked away, then motioned for me to quickly close the door. I don't believe it, Dad. You won't abandon me. I was wrong, Dad. Chen Siyue's mournful cries resounded in the corridor. That night, my father was as hard-hearted as a stone. He didn't open the door, even when she howled until the early morning. It was only when the neighbor called the police that Chen Siyue was taken away. I thought this was the end of the life exchange between me and Chen Siyue. Unexpectedly, she still wouldn't let me go. During the summer vacation of my first year in college, in the alley on my way home, I was pestered by a strange man. I feigned cooperation, and when he started groping me, I ran out of the alley to call for help and called the police. With the help of the surrounding people, the police successfully arrested the man. Almost without much effort, the man confessed that Chen Siyue had instigated him. He said he knew I was Chen Siyue's sister, and he hadn't committed a crime. We were in love with each other, but his family forced him to get married, and I refused on the grounds that I was going to college. So he had no choice but to think of the way to make the situation irreversible. The man could produce our correspondence, photos, and my identity information, etc. I said these were all stolen by Chen Siyue. The police immediately caught Chen Siyue for confrontation. When I saw her, she was already crazy and delirious. However, she could still recognize me. She pointed at me and laughed. Lin Chuani, your man bullied me. I asked my man to bully you. That's fair. It turned out that this man was her hooligan husband from the previous life. I told the police to follow the procedures. The hooligan went to jail and Chen Siyue was identified as having schizophrenia and was sent to a special institution for control. As for Chen Zhengwo and his son, the reply from Interpol to me was that they had been trying their best to conduct a transnational pursuit. But the two were very cunning and had currently fled to the politically unstable East Triangle. They were still making full-scale negotiations. I said I understood. In this life, they had schemed everything, and it was only right that they ended up like this. And my beautiful life, free from burdens, had just begun. Epilogue 1. 6 years later, Xiao Manqing, as Lin Chuani's secretary, went with her to the mental hospital in Haicheng. Chen Siyue had just been transferred from the psychiatric hospital today. Because she was extremely aggressive, she was locked in an iron-walled room. Lin Chuani, haha. Lin Chuani, swap with me, swap with me. I want to choose again. You go to hell. I'm going to kill you, kill you. The iron bars were rattled loudly by Chen Siyue. She bared her teeth, her eyes blood red, full of longing, laughing distortedly. How did Siyue become like a mad dog? Xiao Manqing took a step back and blurted out. Wasn't she always a mad dog? Lin Chuanyi replied indifferently, the mocking smile on her lips icy. Xiao Manqing couldn't help but shiver. Money is not a problem. Don't be soft-hearted when it comes to using medications and instruments. Lin Chuanyi instructed the dean beside her. The tone made the dean's expression turn solemn. Yes, President Lin. He'll be here soon. From this moment on, Chen Siyue's life completely ended in Lin Chuanyi's hands, and could no longer stir up any waves. After coming out of the mental hospital, Xiao Manqing couldn't help but think, how on earth did Chen Siyue end up like this step by step? First she loved the wrong person. After dropping out of school, Chen Siyue got entangled with Chen Dongxing. Later, she got pregnant and was abandoned, which made her mentally unstable. That man had been doing well in the East Triangle in recent years, committing numerous crimes, and already on the domestic wanted list. Could it be that Lin Chuanyi had long seen that Chen Dongxing was a ruthless character, and had been using Chen Siyue as a shield, biding her time? Xiao Manqing's heart skipped a beat. No. At that time, Lin Chuanyi was only 18 years old. How could she have predicted the current situation? Xiao Manqing quickly shook her head in denial. As the car left the mental hospital, she withdrew her gaze with a sigh. The man Chen Siyue found was unreliable. What's more, after Aunt Wang Wan made a mistake, she was also rejected by Uncle Lin. Every way out seemed to be blocked. Xiao Manqing remembered that Uncle Lin and Aunt Wang had favored Chen Siyue since childhood. This could be seen from their names. She heard from her mother that when the couple divorced, they fought fiercely for the custody of Chen Siyue, while Chuanyi was kicked around like a ball. Finally, Uncle Lin's shoe slapped the table and roared that he was willing to remain unmarried for Chen Siyue's sake for the rest of his life. And only then did Aunt Wang Yi compromise. Although in the end, Chen Siyue still went to the Chen family with Wang Yi, Uncle Lin Shu's partiality for her was evident. It was not until Chen Siyue sabotaged Chuanyi's college entrance examination that Uncle Lin Shu cruelly cut off the father-daughter relationship. Although this was reasonable, Xiao Manqing thought of a question. Lin Chuanyi had already obtained the recommendation quota long ago. Why did she keep it hidden from everyone back then? Even she didn't see the okay gesture Lin Chuanyi made to her until the moment before entering the examination hall. Did Lin Chuanyi calculate that Chen Siyue would do this? Ah, Xiao Manqing almost exclaimed. Thinking of the recommendation, she suddenly remembered one thing. That year, Chen Siyue had someone tie Lin Chuanyi to the back gate of the school and bullied her. Lin Chuanyi was cut into a bald-like state, and became a laughingstock. Chen Dongxing disliked her for being ugly, and even changed his seat because of it. And that day happened to be the day when Lin Chuanyi went to ask teacher He about the result of the recommendation quota. At that time, she was about to call for help. Lin Chuanyi suddenly cast a gloomy look at her, with a warning and an inexplicable harshness. She couldn't help but swallow the cry for help. It was not until after graduating from college that after several years of social experience, Xiao Manqing became Lin Chuanyi's capable assistant, and understood that that glance from Lin Chuanyi was the deterrence that only those who had been in a high position for a long time could have. And she herself was simply fearless in her ignorance back then, and even questioned why Lin Chuanyi indulged Chen Siyue so much. Lin Chuanyi shook her head and smiled helplessly. It's okay. She's just being childish. She won't really hurt me after a fuss. This was no mere fuss. Lin Chuanyi had already thought of using the recommendation to scheme against Chen Siyue, and set a trap for her from then on. She hid the news of the recommendation, waiting for Chen Siyue to play tricks on the college entrance examination later, so as to make Uncle Lin regret it, and completely see Chen Siyue's true nature. This well explained that on the eve of the college entrance examination, when Chen Siyue provocatively showed her ill intentions, both she and her mother could see it. But Lin Chuanyi never complained, just smiled and said that Chen Siyue had no bad intentions, that Chen Siyue just simply wanted to get in touch with Uncle Lin, and strengthen their father-daughter relationship. Xiao Manqing looked at Lin Chuanyi with a complicated expression, opened her lips, and then swallowed her words. She actually wanted to ask if Lin Chuanyi's match, making between her mother and Uncle Lin was also premeditated, fearing that Uncle Lin would be soft-hearted in the future, so she simply made him get married, and have a child, completely cutting off Chen Siyue's way back. The answer was actually already in her heart. Every step and every word of Lin Chuanyi had a purpose. So how could such a shrewd person like her not see through Chen Siyue's low-level provocation methods? How could she rest assured to hand over such important college entrance examination certificates to Uncle Lin, especially when Chen Siyue was around? How could she not know to check the certificates until her mother reminded her when the bell rang for entering the examination hall? Lin Chuanyi had never tolerated or retreated. She just coldly watched Uncle Lin's partiality for Chen Siyue, and coldly indulged Chen Siyue to go further and further down the path of madness, because she knew that only when they were lifted up higher would they fall more painfully. Later, Xiao Manqing heard from her mother that after she entered the examination hall, Uncle Lin received a call from Chen Siyue. Hearing Chen Siyue arrogantly admit that she had done it, Uncle Lin was so angry that he immediately fainted. Chuanyi is so heartless. She didn't even blink. If I hadn't been there to support him, your Uncle Lin would have really had an accident when he fell. But at that time, they didn't make a sound. After all, the college entrance examination was related to a person's life. Who wouldn't be angry if it was sabotaged? People might even kill. Uncle Lin lay in bed for 3 days, with a high fever and delirium, constantly talking nonsense. The doctor said it was a heart problem, and needed to be nursed slowly. Her mother knew that Lin Chuani had already been recommended, so she went to plead. Lin Chuani took advantage of this matter to bring her mother and Uncle Lin's relationship a big step forward. What's wrong with you? You're very quiet today. Were you stimulated by Chen Siyue? Lin Chuani suddenly opened her eyes and smiled. Xiao Manqing quickly shook her head. No, Siyue brought this upon herself. Lin Chuani smiled and turned to look at the scenery outside the window. Xiao Manqing let out a soft sigh. Although she had figured out the whole story, she couldn't blame Lin Chuani. Lin Chuani's calmness and patience were not cold-bloodedness. It was because she had long seen through Uncle Lin Shu's partiality, and had no expectation of fatherly love from him. Since there was no desire, where was the need to seek? If she hadn't been recommended, and still had expectations and trust in Uncle Lin Shu, what kind of end would await her that day? Thinking further, if she hadn't hidden the recommendation, at that time, the Chen family was rich and powerful. Who knew what tricks Chen Siyue would play? Lin Chuani just cooperated with Chen Siyue, allowing her to succeed continuously. The more complacent Chen Siyue was at that time, the more crazy she would be later. However, Xiao Manqing still felt a bit disappointed in her heart. When Lin Chuani made her mother and Uncle Lin, she said, "We're going to college in another city. Isn't it good to let my dad and Aunt Jiang take care of each other?" Even though they had been good friends before, and were now like sisters, Lin Chuani had never told them a single truth. Under those indifferent smiles and perfunctory words was a heart that was extremely cold. She fought alone, and didn't need anyone's understanding or sympathy. Her aloofness made people feel pitiful. Along the way, Xiao Manqing's heart was in turmoil. When they arrived at the Lin family, she had a new understanding of Lin Chuani. Hihi, sister is back. As soon as the doorbell rang, the younger brother Lin Zhaoyang ran out, and jumped onto Lin Chuani like a monkey. Hey Zhaoyang, you? Xiao Manqing subconsciously reached out. Humph, Lin Zhaoyang didn't care. Lin Chuani smiled, handed the bag to Xiao Manqing, and picked up Lin Zhaoyang. Lin Zhaoyang giggled triumphantly, and gave Lin Chuani a loud kiss on the cheek. Chuani is back. Lin Huixing wiped his hands on the apron, and quickly walked out of the kitchen. Today, I made all your favorite dishes. Wash your hands and come eat quickly. Zhaoyang, don't bother your sister. As he spoke, he stretched out his hands to take Lin Zhaoyang. Not in a hurry, Lin Chuani said faintly, sidestepping Lin Huixing. Xiao Manqing felt a bit embarrassed. Lin Huixing followed helplessly, his eyes lingering on Lin Chuani, trying to get close and talk, but was blocked back by Lin Chuani. Jiang Yun could only shake her head at Xiao Manqing and sigh. 6 years had passed, but the father-daughter relationship hadn't improved. Instead, it had become increasingly distant. Anyone with eyes could see that Lin Huixing had been trying hard to break the deadlock. But Lin Chuani remained indifferent, neither resentful nor complaining, leaving no opportunity for anyone to start a conversation. This was the most helpless thing. In the end, the mother-daughter pair could only admit that Lin Chuani had long let go, while only Lin Huixing still held on to the obsession, and couldn't let go of Chuani. Lin Chuani didn't gracefully arrive at the dinner table, until she had checked Lin Zhaoyang's homework. Only when facing Lin Zhaoyang did the smile on her face have a bit of warmth. 10 years later, Lin Huixing was seriously ill. Jiang Yun called Lin Chuani back to see him for the last time. Chuani, your father is most worried about you. Have a good talk with him this time. Jiang Yun earnestly persuaded. The mother-daughter pair waited anxiously outside the ward. After a few minutes, there was complete silence inside. Suddenly, if I had gone with Mom back then, what would you have done? Would you have treated me like you treated Chen Siyue, keeping my room for many years? Or would you have forbidden me to go home, and quickly erased my traces in this family? Lin Huixing's breathing became rapid. Xiao Manqing peeked through the window and saw Lin Huixing's face turning red, his upper body leaning forward forcefully, his eyes wide open. Dad, no, I wouldn't. Lin Chuani sneered. Really? Wouldn't you? Father and daughter confronted each other for a few seconds. Then Lin Chuani said again, if you really loved me, why would you marry Aunt Jiang? When you decided to take Chen Siyue, didn't you swear that you wouldn't remarry? Lin Huixing stared closely at Lin Chuani, his mouth opening but no words coming out. True love means subconsciously thinking about what she thinks, being comprehensive in everything, and leaving nothing uncalculated. So all these years, you've tried so hard and so humbly to be good to me. Do you know how ridiculous I find it? Lin Chuani leaned down and whispered in Lin Huixing's ear. You really look like a clown. Chuani, how could he be so heartless? His father is dying. Jiang Yun was so angry that she wanted to rush into the ward. Xiao Manqing hugged her tightly, with big tears rolling down. Mom, let him vent. Otherwise he won't have another chance. Jiang Yun stared blankly at her daughter. Chuani has endured for a long time. This is what Uncle Lin owes him. It's not easy for Chuani to get to where she is today. Every step, as long as she was a little soft-hearted or took a wrong step, it would be an abyss and beyond redemption. Uncle Lin has been partial since childhood. When they divorced, he pushed Chuani to Aunt Wang, which was already abandonment. Before the college entrance examination, for Chen Siyue's sake, did he really care about Chuani's studies? During that time, Chen Siyue was at home. We all knew how chaotic it was. As Chuani said, love is not just cooking a few meals and asking a few words. It comes from the heart, and is expressed in words and actions. But what did Chuani's tolerance get in return? Chen Siyue brazenly stole her certificates. If Uncle Lin had paid a little more attention, he couldn't have been calculated by her. Until the moment the bell rang, it was finally irreparable. Do you know how painful and cold Chuani's heart was? Lin Huixing ultimately failed to live up to Lin Chuani's last expectation. In fact, Lin Chuani had given him a chance. Lin Huixing's guilt was just compensation and regret after being served by Chen Siyue. The proud Lin Chuani disdained this belated and cheap fatherly love. It was clearly Lin Huixing who took away Lin Chuani's ability to love. Now what right does he have to ask for her forgiveness? There's no reasoning with parental partiality. Lin Chuani has just long accepted this fact. Lin Huixing didn't get Lin Chuani's forgiveness until the moment he died. Lin Chuani came out of the ward, her expression already back to normal. She picked up Lin Zhaoyang. Sister, where?